We now move to the southern region of the African continent, where the South African Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, is expected to table his budget speech in Cape Town on Wednesday. The highly anticipated address comes amid the country's tough economic times, with high unemployment, struggling parastatals, crippled businesses and frustrated residents due to load shedding. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana will have to juggle competing national spending priorities and limited resources. Economists expect the country's unstable electricity supply to be top of the agenda. And joining me on the news to discuss this is Caleb Kachalia, lawmaker, DA Shadow Minister of Public Enterprises. Thank you so much for joining us, Caleb, on the news.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
All right, so the budget speech is coming up in an hour's time. What really should stand up high on the agenda on the challenges South Africa is experiencing?
Look, there's no doubt that the monies that will be allocated to Eskom will be top of the agenda, because without electricity, a country is in deep trouble. No investment, it impacts businesses, it impacts lives that people live. And with us being on what we call stage 6 load shedding, which is a considerable amount of hours per day in darkness, with the real possibility that we might go to stage 8 load shedding and then onwards to a complete blackout, it is a real issue which needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed forthwith. And to address this issue, like all issues of this nature, money is key. So the minister is going to tell us, no doubt, how the government is going to take over large proportions of Eskom's debt. Now, that's all very well, because it's all within the family. Eskom is wholly owned by the government, and the government balance sheet sits separate from that, and it's a question of shifting the chairs around the deck of the Titanic, if you like. However, when the shift happens, and if it happens, which we are told it will, we need to know exactly what the conditionalities will be, because they have to be remarkably strict. And if they're not strict, then it's just more of the same, pouring money down a deep and horrible hole.
Now, looking at the strict measures, we're talking about the electricity challenge and a lot of expectations for the minister. Now, let's go deeper. How far do you think the minister should go into final details on how the state should absorb the entity's debt, which you talked about, and try to seek out investors?
Well, look, he's going to make the headline announcement of how much will go from Eskom onto the government balance sheet. He's not going to go into the conditionalities that are required, but those must follow immediately thereafter, because this is going to be on everyone's lips. These are the questions which everyone wants answered. And it's all very well to say that we are taking over X amount of debt, but how, in doing so, as I've said, the conditionalities need to be absolutely clear. And I don't think he's going to have much time today. As I say, today is the headline news. We're allocating this amount to this, from this ministry to that. We're doing this because this is urgent. We're doing that because that is urgent. And it's that is the kind of budget we're going to speech, at any rate, that we're going to listen to.
Aside electricity, now one of the other issues that the minister is expected to address is the matter on the public sector wage bill. There's been a lot of rancor from the public sector with the Treasury for nagging on the wage increase. So how is the minister expected to address this particular issue as it affects the citizens?
Well, he has to address every single aspect of the budget which is in contention. This is one aspect that's in contention. There are other aspects which are begging to be in contention. People want to know how much is going to be allocated to social development grants. Is there going to be an increase there? How is that going to be funded? Where are you going to take money from Peter to pay Paul? These are all the issues which are going to be addressed in the budget. And that is absolutely crucial. As the same applies to to the government employees issue, and that's going to be top of the agenda. But more than anything else, electricity is going to be the order of the day.
Now, with the other issues going on in South Africa, I mean, we've seen a lot of displeased people with how the government is handling things, with the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, and now the Finance Minister making his budget. What are the expectations of citizens? What do they expect from the government and even the Finance Minister today?
Well, the expectations from South Africans generally is very low. It has reached its lowest point. If you look at all the polls that have been conducted, people in South Africa across the board, across whatever party they've supported in the past, their expectations are low. They have seen the juggling of finances. They have seen the appropriation of monies and the disbursement of monies in particular areas. But what they've also seen is massive theft of that money as it's been appropriated and as it's been earmarked. For example, if you go back to electricity, the outgoing CEO of Eskom, our utility, which is in charge of the 95% of the generation of our electricity, has basically made an unprecedented statement to the press. In an interview, he talked about the ANC treating Eskom as a feeding trough. He also talked about the $8.5 billion which Eskom was largely responsible at COP26 for being earmarked towards new generational electricity. He talked about a minister saying that, and he quoted the minister, he didn't say who it was, saying that if you want to do some public good, you've got to allow some people to eat. Now, that's a shocking statement, because that's the order of the day which has got us into this mess. And that's across the board, whether we're talking about whatever monies we're talking about being earmarked to whatever sector, that is the malaise that we are presented with. And that has got to be stopped. And people across the board are tired because, as you know, unemployment is at unprecedented rates. Crime is at unprecedented rates. Electricity barely exists. Our hospitals are in a dire state. Our schools are in a dire state. I could go on, and these need to be addressed forthwith.
All right, thank you so much, Caleb. Of course, we'll have our eyes fixed on issues in South Africa subsequently on our bulletins. Thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Great pleasure.